How's it going, everybody? Obviously, we have had the RLCS going on this weekend. Winter Split is back. It's amazing. We've got pro players, top 16 in the world, in their respective regions, competing for a chance to go to a major. Obviously, that's going to happen over the next 3 regionals, etc., and whatnot. But the difficulty is there's been actually a lot of conversation and talking about something that I think is important, which is the ability to interrupt me while I do this stuff. Diego, thank you for this mountain face. Thank you for gifting this blah, blah, blah. You guys know how this goes. I try to do stuff, my chat interrupts me. It's how it goes here. Appreciate you guys. But the difficulty is you want to make sure that, just like in times of the past, you can continue to keep new talent coming through. You got to find a way to create a process or a situation to where you can foster new talent. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation around the bubble scene and the amateur scene in Rocket League, primarily the RLCS, and how to find ways to make sure that we create that healthy conversation. But to do that, there's a couple things we have to do. One, we have to talk about the history before and after, because a lot of people forget that it used to be a lot worse. And it's actually pretty good now in comparison. We then have to talk about, obviously, why this conversation has come to be. Some of the suggestions that have been provided by a coach for one of the teams that is kind of in that area, as well as Psyonix responses, their decisions, and then a certain someone that has basically made this all better, at least short term. So pretty cool stuff. So we're going to be talking about the history. We're going to talk about the current conversation, my own thoughts on it, and then we'll talk about some solutions, which is pretty cool. So with that said, let's switch over to the other screen. This all came to be because of the coach of Team Queso, Nick, putting out an issue with the Rocket League bubble scene. Before we go into what he says and why and his solutions and everything else, let's talk about how it used to be in the RLCS. For a very long time, in the past, in the early days of RLCS, the way that it worked is RLCS would get announced, teams would sign up, and whether you were a team that competed in RLCS in the past or not, you competed in an open qualifier bracket for hopes of being the top 8 in your region. Those top 8 played in league play, while the rest basically just hecked off and didn't have anything. They were left for roughly like 6+ months to do nothing. They had to figure out ways to get better on their own time, and it was like that for a very long time. And there was a lot of conversations about building your brand and why teams that, which is the original conversation around the build your brand thing, teams that wanted to automatically be given a spot in the RLCS wasn't viable. And I said, it's not possible. You need a system that will allow people to build into the RLCS. If you're going to automatically give people spots, you need a system below it so they can feed into that. Hence the RLRS, which was created and worked pretty well. You had a parent league, a sister league, or amateur league. The best in the RLRS got promoted or demoted based upon results, and that's what people remember. The issue is if you were not top 8 in the RLCS, which came 10, or you were not 9 through 16, which then became, 11 through 20, you didn't play. You didn't have a thing to play as a bubble team. That's only the top 20 in the RLCS. Top 20 teams. Which you're looking now, as it is, the top 32, which, again, is an additional 12 teams compared to what it was. So right now, the bubble scene and the way that it's curated is better than it's ever been before. And I think a lot of people forget that. This stuff takes time, and there is a lot of cost that comes with it that I don't think people realize. To put this all into perspective, and I guess the point that I'm trying to give to is providing contrast and devil advocate to just, hey, we want it. Rocket League has been around, primarily the RLCS, for 5, going on its 6th year. And over the course of those years, it has progressively gotten better. Like I mentioned now, in the open qualifier system. In the past, as I just mentioned, it used to be you competed in an open qualifier. If you didn't make it in those open qualifiers, you had nothing for 6 to 7 months. It then became, hey, you can make it into the RLRS. If you didn't make the RLRS, you were SOL for 6 to 7 months. Now, in the open qualifier system, in a circuit-based system, literally anyone, if they are good enough, can go through the open qualifiers to the closed qualifiers to top 16 in the world for 3 regionals that happen every other week. So if you are a team that is able to progress to that level, then your previous 3 recent results will carry you to getting invited. And if you don't make those, at least you have an open qualifier for a chance to play against the best of the best. Because I hate to break it to you, the best of the best will not scrim the lower teams. And now they coincidentally have to. They have to play those teams in competitive play. So there is a better system in place now than there ever has been before, but it could be better. And I think that's where I'm trying to get. So that is the history. That is me explaining about how things have taken steps to where they are now. But the concern is still there. There is still not a supplemental system that helps feed into that post-qualifier scenario, right? So Team Queso's Nick talks about how there is a massive gap between these teams and goes through all of this, the bubble issues, the apparent issues that come with it. He announces and talks about an idea on how to fix it, and we'll go into it. I'm basically going to summarize this to the best circumstance I can. If you take a look at Liquipedia and we go into the matches that just happened, we just had the closed qualifier of RLCS. You have the 8 teams that were invited from NRG to V1, and then you have 8 more teams that came from a closed qualifier. 8 of those teams have nothing now. United, Accelerate, Prestige, Pioneers, Charlotte Phoenix, Manzana, which means Apple, Nefarious, which just got picked up, and Buccos have nothing. Until next week is going to be Europe. They have downtime. Then there's the next regional, and the week before regionals, they have another open qualifier. So essentially, they have to do nothing for about 7 days, and there's nothing to play in. There's no reason for them to compete, blah, blah, blah. Which to me, if I'm looking at this, you just got rid of the grid so people have time to breathe. But if you're not playing in these matches, it sucks. It really does. So the idea presented was, if we take these teams, or the teams that were very close, if you go into look at the bracket that they played in the double elimination, if you take all these teams that are super close to qualifying, right? All of these teams and all of these teams, and the ones that didn't progress forward, and you made a regular tournament series for them, then you would have the ability to find a way to curate and make it so that the teams that do not make it into the top 16 or the top 32 has a chance to continue to play and build upon and foster new talent. And that's basically what they're asking for. This entire Twitlonger is basically saying we need more opportunities financially and otherwise. And the difficulty is the argument that I want to present. If I'm a tournament organizer, say it is myself, Dazarin, someone else that has done other TOing stuff, Lethamir, whoever, Johnny Boy. If we do a tournament and there is no notable names to the general public, because the casuals are the ones that are going to be watching your broadcast, if I host a tournament with people that names aren't known, they may help propel them and make them bigger names. But it is more so the TO having notoriety that is going to carry that. So for the amount of time, effort, money that goes into it to be a polished product, paying for broadcast talent and a host, paying for production, paying for graphic assets, paying for etc., and you're wanting to do this twice a week, is it simply worth the time and effort? Is it worth it for me to run 2 tournaments a week and pay for the money that it takes to make all this happen for a bubble scene where these players no one technically knows about? To the widespread. Obviously, for people who watch the game and follow to the pro scene and stuff, you should recognize some of these names. But to the general public, these names are not going to pull numbers to justify the cost that goes into it. And that's where it's going to take someone big to step up and put that stuff on. This is normally pointed at, hey, Daddy Psyonix, developer, please provide funding to make this happen. But at the same time, if I'm an amateur and I'm making more money than some of these people make, like if you look at these qualifiers, the teams that make it into the top 16, they come away with $1,000. 13th through 16th place overall gets $1,000, and that's split 3 ways on their team. You get $333. That's every 2 weeks. If I'm supposed to be running weekly tournaments for closed qualifiers for the bubble teams, the teams that aren't top 16, you're talking teams that are 17 to 32, there's a chance that if you run these tournaments on a regular basis, in order to incentivize it being worth the time, how much money are you supposed to put in to justify it to where you're actually making more money than you would as a team that's making top 16 in the world? There needs to be a system that they're saying in place, and I do agree with that, but how do you justify means, costs, etc., to make it so that these amateurs can continue to play? Now, I come from an old school mentality, and I could be completely wrong on this, but isn't the ability to compete and be top 16 every single regional the incentive and the motivation? isn't the ability to broadcast your own matches through closed qualifiers and open qualifiers that you have exclusivity on that broadcast that no one else has, a way to grow and develop your own personal branding and make money. Now, I do say devil's advocate to that as well. If I'm a pro and there is strain and stuff put on my PC, I'm not going to want to stream the matches. I want to make sure I can compete and perform to the best of my ability. But I am saying there are opportunities there for you to grow and make money off of this situation. But I also come from the whole working hard, put your head down and just grind and see if you can make it. Again, you are playing for the opportunity, and that opportunity is being presented to you. That is a thing that is here. Every 2 weeks, you have the chance to play in regionals, and then when the major rolls around, yes, if you don't make it, it sucks. You got to sit and wait, but that's the time that you go through your roster changes, you try to figure things out, you're trying to develop as a team. Tournaments existing in those times, yes, need to happen. I do think there needs to be third-party tournaments. I think there needs to be options for people to play in with open qualifiers, so it's not just the pros being invited every single time like we play. There also needs to be opportunities for the general public, casual, bubble, semi-pro, pro, whatever. You can do invites to the pros, but you should also do open qualifiers so other teams have a chance to make it through and have that level of not only exposure, but also experience that they get against the top level teams, without a doubt. But the difficulty is more. Can we justify the cost and the means that goes into production and everything else without a payout? Is that going to be enough for people to want to sign up and play? And I look at it as just a raw lack of information, I guess. Those open qualifiers are the enticement. Those are the reason you sign up and play. But it doesn't hurt to have other things alongside of it. It's just going to take someone to go above and beyond to create a system and foster a system out of the sheer goodness of their heart, I guess. Ways you can do this is if a tournament organizer or whatever wants to take this upon themselves. I've done it with a Brawl. Dazrin's done it with Wave Dash and others. Covert, I think, was his other, Codename Covert or whatever it was his other one. But it's going to take someone to step up and do this. And hopefully their notoriety in the scene is enough to get eyes and stuff on it to help. Same thing that Johnny Boy has done with the one scene for so long. Now that Fear is doing it and everything else. People with platforms building other players up. It takes someone out of the kindness of their own heart to put in the time, the effort, and everything else to make this viable. These are also things that will give community level talent. They're going to get paid nickel and dime. They're going to get paid pennies because they can't justify the cost. But it is an opportunity for you to showcase your talents for a chance that may never come. That is a hard reality. There is a hard reality that even though you are casting these tournaments and everything else, that you will never make it to the big leagues. Same thing with players. You can play in these tournaments all you want, but there is a chance that people are just better than you, and that happens. But it is going to take someone with a platform to go out, search for sponsors and stuff like that, and be able to say, hey, this is an amateur scene that has potential. Do you want to sponsor it? And fun fact, someone I don't think anyone expected actually ended up doing that. And this has been in development for a while. I wish I had more information talking to Flashes of Brilliance, but they've literally gone and done that. And I think it's amazing. I may be coming off negative or gatekeeping or whatever like that, but at the end of the day, like, I am all for fostering new talent. I am all for trying to build and give people opportunities to put themselves out there to grow. And I think open circuit is just the bare bones of it. I think that has been talked about. Flashes of Brilliance put out a $50,000 tournament series sponsored by AAA. So it's the AAA Challenger Series. There's 6 Challenger events, 2 Super Challenger events, 1 series. There's a bunch of details to it, but the general premise is that the team's 16 to 24. So like I mentioned here, these are top 16. This is 8 through 16. This is 17 through 24. So these teams have the ability to go and play after their regionals, and they earn points over time. So it's basically like a mini series as well for the amateur scene or the bubble scene. These teams are going to compete, earn points, and based on how they perform, they will keep going into different events. Here's a graphic of it kind of showing, hey, you didn't do well in this event. You're 17 through 24. You've still qualified. You're still one of the better teams. Play in this. Based on how you perform, you get points. And after all those events, you then go to the big fancy event, which is worth a boatload of money. This is a way to entice new and upcoming players to play in a scene. 35K is a lot of money when the most you can make as a top 16 team, if you take 16th to the 13th, is $1,000 split 3 ways. That's a lot of money. And it is a way to entice and get people to play. This is insane. It is absolutely insane. And I'm curious, and I would love to know from Flashes of Brilliance how they positioned this and how they sold this sponsorship spot to AAA and being like, this is worth your investment. I am genuinely curious to figure out how it is. Because that is a hard sell. Because I don't think the viewership is going to be absolutely insane. I think it'll be in the thousands, hopefully, because this community loves competitive gaming. I think this scene loves the esports side of things on Twitch. But I'm genuinely curious on how they sold that ad spot. Because the numbers and things, I don't know if they can justify for retention rates and viewership and unique. I just don't know how. I would love to know how they were able to do it. I think it's a massive deal, and I think it's absolutely fantastic on what it does. So 17 through 24, those are the bubble that are not in the top 16. Because the top 16, the reason why they're considered the bubble is because they're not in the main event. Main event is top 16. Bubble is anything outside of those close qualifiers. So these teams that are in red. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And that's not all. This is something that has been discussed. It is something that wants to happen. But again, it takes time. People want this stuff immediately. I talked about the history of going from here to here to here to here, going from open qualifiers and just a double elimination, good luck to the top 8, to now a circuit-based system where open qualifiers are an option. But that stuff took time. It's been over 5 years. And again, Psyonix does have plans and intentions to do this better. They've said it in their videos. Let's take a look.
That is correct. Every single event is going to be 16 teams. Like Ian said, the name of the game was refinement. The trailer said revamp format, right? One of our biggest focuses was creating a lot more breathing room in the entire year. In fact, one of the additional...
So he's talking about the difference between having the grid and not having the grid, right? In the past, there was every other off week you played in the grid. A lot of people just got burnt out because you had to play in regionals and then you had to play in the grid. Regionals, grid, regionals, grid. And there was no real time for anything else to exist. They got rid of the grid. They refined things. They made it a little bit less panicky, I guess is the best way to do it. It was just so chock full of events that there wasn't enough for anything else. And the players got burnt out. After 10 months of playing in that every week, it just was too much. So this way they get a break. And because there is that separation or that break, you now have the ability to do other stuff, which they're going to talk about here.
Is we're removing the grid. You know, I know grid, a lot of people loved it. Team streams and everything were super awesome, but it created a lot of grind for pros. And we want to open up the ecosystem. We want to have more bubble tournaments. We want to have more additional tournaments.
Yeah, we're gonna listen to what Murty just said again.
You know, I know grid, a lot of people loved it. Team streams and everything were super awesome, but it created a lot of grind for pros. And we want to open up the ecosystem. We want to have more bubble tournaments. They
want to add more bubble tournaments. They are addressing it directly. They understand that it is possible, but the general public needs to also understand that this stuff can't happen overnight. They went through the first event. The first split is now done. They now have the ability to go back to the drawing board. They can look at what worked, what didn't work, format stuff, timing, everything else that goes along with it. With a major under their belt, now that they've been able to run one, a live event, as well as 3 regionals and how those work scheduling-wise, plus a trade window. So with that information, they now have the ability to say, okay, if we're going to add additional, how would we go about doing that? This stuff takes time. What Flashes of Brilliance is doing is incredible, but this stuff takes time. Murty also addresses it in a Reddit comment about this. One of the players or one of the people does make a post about the RLRS and how they miss it and all that kind of stuff, and talks about how, hey, even in that announcement, he does talk about the new format. I trust that they're working on this, but it won't be easy. Murty replies to that and says, yes, we're definitely working on it. Lots of little things that have to iron out before we dive deeper into the community events, but rest assured we are working on more events for players at all levels. We have a small team. It's like 7 or 8 people. For the entire esport of Rocket League, there was like 7 or 8 people. It's not enough. So something really important for us is making sure we stop doing one-off things that take a ton of time to stand up and focus our energy on creating long-term solves for problems the esport faces. Sometimes that takes way too much time, unfortunately, but we found it's worth the effort. Case in point, if you guys remember the announcement video. The announcement video that addressed pretty much all the different concerns over the past year and a half and what they did to make it better. This season announcement for 2021-2022, I don't know if there was a single person that was like, I didn't like it. That's what they're trying to accomplish. Do it right the first time rather than a bunch of different band-aids that eventually they have to rip off and put a bigger band-aid on top of. They're trying to make sure that this is a long-term solution. So that is the bubble scene situation. It's coming. They're trying to fix it. The fact that nobody is talking in chat, I think, means people have been enjoying this rant, but I don't know because there's no words over here. No one has said anything. So again, the importance of the bubble scene is obviously there's a lot of different facets to it. It takes time and development. It has gotten better over 5 years, significantly. It is going to take time to fix. Okay? But just know that there is people going out of their way. I know Dazzrin has tweeted about possibly doing something weekly where like Tuesdays and Thursdays or something I think would be ideal for a prize pool. You see Flashes of Brilliance stepping up. You see Psyonix. It's in the works so they can do an official RLCS sanction one. There is a lot of different things. Yes, chat, this is live. This is me off the top of my head. Things I've been thinking about for the past week. This is stuff off the top of my head. We're live. This is on Twitch. I can read. Armageddon says we were locked in. Krispy Kreme is telling me to hydrate and drink. This is the type of stuff. We're doing it for a YouTube video. Hi, everybody on YouTube. YouTube Frogs, come hang out with us. Twitch.tv/Lawler, where you too can drop a Twitch Prime like with Felicious so you can get badges and emotes in the chat. Appreciate you using it here. But yes, this is live. We're doing this live on Twitch. It's going over to YouTube because I think it's important. And for anybody who is over on YouTube, either come hang out with us, twitch.tv/Lawler, where we stream every day, but Tuesday and Sunday. Or let me know in the comments down below how you guys feel, what you guys think. Yes, no. I hope you guys made it this far because at the start, I know it was like kind of negative, but then we got into the positive. Again, hopefully you guys understand both sides of it. Hopefully it's healthy conversation. But that is going to do it for this video because if I don't end soon, I'm sure these guys are going to draw me out with subs, which is honestly a blessing in disguise. Either way, if you guys enjoy the content, you enjoy this kind of conversation, I finally messed up. Thumbs up, subscribe, notifications. As always, just know I appreciate you all as well as all the love and support. But we're out of here. Have a good rest of your day. That's what I wanted to say, chat. That was terrible. Bye, YouTube. We're out of here. Let me turn the music back on.